Good afternoon, Statelanders. How are you? A few weeks ago, a report appeared in Business Tech about bank branches where you can get your smart ID and passport coming in 2023. And then a week and some small change ago, there were a number of reports about the demise of the post office, the liquidation of the post office, the possible rescue of the post office, and so on. And the two reports seem to me to have a lot to do with one another as far as you and I are concerned. What I mean is that you know that there's something wrong when an institution, the post office, I think the first post office in South Africa was opened for business in the late 1700s. So when a 225 or 6 or 4-year-old institution collapses because it's not a viable entity, but you're hearing of services that it either did provide or could have provided, going to commercial banks, you know that there's just something wrong. I think I've mentioned in other videos in recent months that I had to pop into the post office a couple of months back, 3 months back, and I got chatting with the woman behind the counter, and I asked her about the viability of that post office, because this post office, our Van der Kloof post office, because there had been some reports about post offices being shut down around South Africa, and she said to me, we don't think that we'll have a problem because this building is owned outright by the post office. So our problem is not the problem being faced by most post offices around South Africa, namely failure by the HQ, Post Office HQ, to pay its various post office branches rents. Lo and behold, it wasn't 4 weeks later, and we learned that the Van der Kloof post office would shut down with immediate effect. They don't know whether they're coming or going. They don't know whether their problem is a problem or whether it's somebody else's problem. Is it that we have a problem right through every post office, or is it a problem that we have only when it comes to paying the money that we owe to landlords? New bank branches where you can get your smart ID and passport coming in 2023. South Africa's big banks say they are continuing to work with the Department of Home Affairs on expanding the latter's services to more bank branches, with several locations earmarked for this year. I've just watched a video featuring, Connie Mulder, the younger, of Solidariteit, I believe. It was at the Free Market Foundation. The video was recorded of him giving a presentation. And there was a big Solidariteit banner behind him, one of those pop-up banners. And he was talking about how AfriForum, not Solidariteit, AfriForum will be going to court against NERSA and Eskom in 2 cases now, perhaps beginning last week or beginning next week, over the one case involves 6 farmers who couldn't get reliable power from Eskom, farmers in the Free State, I believe, so they banded together and set up their own solar farm. And then they asked Eskom if they could use Eskom's transmission lines to distribute the power that they generated from that central point to their 6 various farms. And Eskom said no, which is understandable, not morally perhaps, but if it's their power lines, why should they let other people use them? You know, you can be stingy. I don't let other people park their cars in my driveway, for instance. But apparently there is some merit to the farmer's case. And Solidariteit believes that AfriForum is going to win that case. The other case involves a town, namely Frankfurt, in the northeastern Free State, that generates its own electricity all by itself. But because of the laws in South Africa, when there's blackouts, rotational load shedding, euphemistically referred to as load shedding, rotational blackouts, they're obliged to turn off the supply to their residents. And they're taking NERSA, I believe it is, to court. And the point is that if you leave the African National Congress rulers out of it, there is a plan to be made. But the more that the African National Congress is involved in South African Airways, Eskom, the Post Office, Transnet, the greater the failure that it is. I read a report, an article about Roan Voss's Rovos Rail some months ago. And I'm by no means an expert on it. On things, rail, I know nothing about them. And I have very little interest in them, except that I like riding trains, but it ends there. What I can remember is that the gist as I received it, I read this thing, what becomes the motif for me? Well, the gist of that article for me was how Roan Voss, Rovos Rail, had gone from strength to strength to strength to strength, year after year, to the point, I may get this slightly wrong, that they now offer services to Tanzania, or Tanzania if you prefer, Zambia, Namibia, but you name it. They have expanded across the southern African subcontinent of Africa. At the same time as the ANC has overseen, has been the superintendent of the phenomenal collapse of the railways. Now, the African National Congress, in the form of the Department of Home Affairs, is endeavoring to get banks to provide that rudimentary distribution service of ID documents and passports. And they'll tell you that it's because they want to, that is to say the Department of Home Affairs, will tell you that it's because they want to expand their service and the 2027 development goals set at the 2019 meeting of the, and we're just going for, but actually you and I know that that's not the reason. Because they are jealous people, and they are known, they know themselves as jealous people. They are not delegating these services in order to be better. They're delegating them because they can't. Anyway, guys, there's not much more worth saying on this subject. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Cheerio. Bye-bye.